Hi, everybody. I'm Stations Guy from RecommendedStations.com, and my guest on today's show is Internet radio. And some of you may be saying, what's that? And that's the whole point of this video. And a lot of people that, if I mention Internet radio to them, they don't know what it is. Maybe they've heard of it before, but they really don't know what it is. So today is going to be kind of like a basic primer on Internet radio. I like to think of Internet radio as the new shortwave. So you can tune in many stations from all around the world like shortwave. The differences are you don't have to dial in a very specific frequency for Internet radio. You don't need to be wrestling with some big antenna and get it just right to get the signal. You don't have to listen during certain times of the day or night to get the station. The sound quality typically is much better. It's usually in stereo, not mono, and the majority of stations are free. There are some stations where you can opt to pay a monthly subscription and get even better sound quality and maybe no commercials, depending on what perks the station is offering. But for the most part, the vast majority of radio stations are free. So if you think of your favorite AM and FM stations you like to listen to on your home stereo or in your car, many of those stations also stream on the internet. So you can get the same station you enjoy listening to, but on the internet. And you might ask, well, why would I need to do that? If I'm listening on AM and FM, why do I need to listen to the same station on the internet? Well, AM and FM is relying on an over-the-air signal. So if the signal's not quite that strong, you might get some noise, you might get a lot of noise. Station might be going in and out, depending on, if you're driving and you're going into another area and the station doesn't have a good signal in that area. With Internet radio, you don't have to worry about that. An Internet radio station is not relying on an over-the-air signal to get to your radio. It's streaming over the internet. So as long as you have internet, a Wi-Fi network, which most people do, and you have some other device like a computer or a smartphone or a tablet or a dedicated internet radio, you'll be able to get internet radio. It just, to me, has so many other advantages over traditional AM and FM. You can see the station logos. Many stations show metadata, so you can see where the station is streaming from, what the quality is like, what the song and artist is that the station is playing at that time. So you get a lot of good information there. But it just sounds great. It's free, other than what you're paying for your Wi-Fi network service anyway. So what I'd like to do now, I'm going to take this internet radio, I'm going to stick it in front of the camera so you can see the display. Then I'm going to go on the other side of the camera so I can see the display. And I'm going to go through a couple of menus to give you an idea of how to search for stations, because there's a lot of stations out there. Several of the ways you can listen to internet radio, as I said, you can use your phone or your tablet. You can download a free app such as iHeartRadio or TuneIn. TuneIn's probably the largest and best known. And these are aggregators. They take stations from all over the world and they collect them in one place so you can access them. And the number of stations depends on the aggregator. It could range from 80,000 to 120,000, 130,000 stations. It's a lot of stations. And they all give you a way of filtering those stations, trying to drill down into finding the station you want to listen to. So that's what I'm going to try and help you with today, because it can be a bit overwhelming when you've got that many stations to go through. So let me just set up this here so I can get the display somewhat properly focused. And there is some glare there. Sorry about that. But if I go the other way, then it may be too dark. So let's do that. And now I'm going to go around and get the remote control. So I'm going to go into the menu here, and this varies, depending on what brand and what model, but most of them, and also this is true for the apps, the iHeart, the TuneIn, and so on. There's another one called Radio Garden, which is kind of fun to use. But they all usually will give you this kind of thing, these kind of search options. So here's one here, genre. So if you know the type of music you want to listen to, classical, country, rock and roll, Celtic, metal, you can go into genre. And now it's just going to give you one big long list of all kinds of music genres. So it's a matter of just scrolling through all these different genres, finding the one you want, and selecting it. So let's go back up. Let's just select country. And I guess I'm just selecting country because that's a very popular format in the United States. It's like number 1 or number 2. It vacillates. So we'll select country music, that is. Now you can hit all stations. It's going to show you every country music station in the world that it can find in its database. Popular stations, what most people are listening to, and then it gives you a rundown of countries. So if you know a specific country you want to listen to the country music in, you can select that. I'm going to go to the United States. So I'm going to arrow up to get there faster. So there's the U.S. So I'm going to select the United States. And now it's going to give me a list of every country music station it can find in the United States over the internet that's in its database. So once again, it's a matter of scrolling through. If you know the name of the station, you can scroll down until you find the name. If you don't know, then you just go through and you randomly select stations and listen to them and decide if you like them or not. And if you don't like it, you go back and pick some other station. I'm going to go, I don't know. What do? You just pick something, listen to it. So let's go to Patriot.
Get a sober ride.
So this is an internet radio station playing country music. Let's go through the metadata and see what we've got here. So this is alternative country. And it's in the United States. Let's see if it shows the city. And it's showing, so that's the city. The reliability of the signal is excellent. The streaming bit rate is 31 kilobits per second in the AAC codec. The AAC codec is very good sound quality. 31 is kind of low, but it is what it is. That's a buffer, date, and usually you'll get some kind of description. It'll talk about what kind of music it plays, but they don't have that in this case. So, but this is now playing alternate country music. And if your internet radio, if you're using one, has preset buttons, and you like this station, you can save it to a preset, and then next time you want to listen to it, you hit the preset button. You don't have to go through all these menus every time. I'm not going to play music because I don't want the copyright police to break down my door and haul me away in chains. Let's go back to the main menu again. So we just did genre. Another way of searching is through location. So I'll select that, and now it's giving you a sort of view from 10,000 feet of your options, and I'm going to select Europe, and that's going to give me all the countries in Europe, as you can see here, alphabetically. I'm going to select France, only because I read the other day that seems to be the #1 tourist destination. So I'll select that, and once again, I can select every station that it finds that streams out of France, or I can scroll down here to these genres, and I can select a genre. So I kind of think of like a French cafe playing some jazz music. So I'm going to scroll all the way down here to jazz, and I'll select that. So there's jazz right there. I select that, and now it's going to give me every jazz station it finds in France in its database. And when I think of France, I think of love. So let's do ABC Love and see what that's all about. It's loading, and it's playing.
Turkey sandwich, chips.
Okay,
eggs.
well, that's a commercial, so we can't hear the music right now. But here's a description, something about sexy and glamour. I don't read French, so that's about all I can tell you. Here's the genre: soul, jazz, love songs, chill, and it's showing that it's in France. It doesn't look like it's going to give me anything more specific, whether it's in Paris or wherever. It's not telling me. Reliability is excellent. Bitrate 128, which is typical. A lot of your stations, that's what they stream at, which is good. It's quite good sound quality. So we'll go back to that. Let's see if they're still playing a commercial. Okay, that really doesn't sound like jazz to me, but whatever. So let's go back to our main menu again, and I'll show you one more way to search, where it says here, search stations. So we'll select that, and you can see now it gives you a grid, and you can punch in if you know the specific name or the name of the specific station you want to listen to. You can type in that name. Sometimes you'll get lucky if you want to type in an artist or a genre. If you want to type in Frank Sinatra, or you want to type in Celtic or whatever, that's you're going to get a much more varied response with that. It's not going to be quite as specific. But I'm going to enter in actually my radio station, which is called Windchime Radio. I started it a couple of years ago, and it does what the title says. It plays my wind chimes on my deck. And what I like about it is you might find some other station on the net or a stream and they play wind chimes, and it's like wind chimes like in a room or from a recording studio. There's no other sounds. It's just wind chimes. And I wanted it to be realistic. So my wind chimes, you can hear the wind blowing across the microphone. You can hear a plane flying overhead, or a dog barking, or a police car coming by, or a motorcycle. Because I wanted it to sound like as if you had wind chimes hanging outside your window, and you opened up your window and you were just listening to the wind chimes. And I have 3 different kinds. I have small, medium, and large wind chimes. And sometimes you'll hear all 3, and sometimes you'll just hear one of those. So Windchime Radio, I've entered it in. I'm going to go over here and hit OK. It's going to search its database. And there it is. It's the only station, apparently, that plays wind chimes, or that it can find, or has wind chime in its name. So I'll select it. And this one I can play because there's no copyright issue. And that, it says all chimes. That means it's playing the small, medium, and large chimes. And if I go through the metadata, there's a description, and it's telling you that my radio station, Windchime Radio, is a broadcast service of recommendedstations.com, my website. And now I got one more, and it's listed under New Age Meditative in Boston, Mass. Reliability is excellent. And that is a very high bit rate in the AAC codec. It's very, very good sound quality. It used to be, I used to stream it at 320, but my radio had a problem handling that high bit rate. It kept sort of reloading, and it became an issue, so I dropped it down to, it's between 197 and 200 typically, but that's very good sound quality. And I can even blow up the logo if you'll excuse my finger. So you can search for that either on the internet, or if you have an internet radio, punch it in however you want to and have a listen. I'm going to get back in my seat here. And I also have a petition on change.org, which is to promote internet radio. I call it NIRD, N-I-R-D, National Internet Radio Day. So there's a link somewhere down below there where I have a bunch of links. There's a link to that. It's free to sign if you'd like to do that and support it. There's a link to my website, recommendedstations.com. There's a link to my Patreon campaign if you'd like to help support what I do here. What I also do on Patreon is I sift through a lot of these stations, and I'll pull one out that I think is really good. It's got good music, it sounds good, it's got an interesting backstory, something I think you'd like to listen to. And I do these recommendations every month of a recommended station. I also point out some rather strange stations. I call them hitchhiker stations because I liken it to driving down the internet radio highway at 1 or 2 in the morning, and you stop and you pick up a hitchhiker. You don't know who's going to get in the car with you. It could be a perfectly very nice person, or it could be a serial killer. And my hitchhiker stations.
The new Randy Van Horn Singers. And you're listening to
Windchime Radio.
Music
Powered by the wind.
Okay. Thank you, Windchime Radio. Windchime Radio, a broadcast service of recommendedstations.com. Does that voice sound familiar? So my hitchhiker stations are the serial killers of internet radio. These messages just reminded me of something. There's a vintage vocal group called the Randy Van Horn Singers who were popular in the 60s. And there's a new formation of those that started a number of years ago called, appropriately enough, the new Randy Van Horn Singers. Although I think there are a couple in the group that had some association with one of the iterations of the group or the original group. And I reached out to them. I asked them if they would compose a jingle for my Windchime radio station and if they would sing it for me. And they did that. They actually made 2 or 3 different jingles, and they did a station ID as well. So that's what you just heard was the new Randy Van Horn Singers. But anyway, getting back to my Patreon campaign. So I search for good internet stations, kind of help you cut through all the clutter. I mean, 100,000 radio stations, that's a lot. So I'll pick something out that I think is really good. I'll listen to it for quite a while, and then I'll write an extensive article. I don't just write, okay, I like this station, it's good. I go through the history. I talk about some of the artists, some of the songs you'll hear. If I can pin down the person who started the station or the person who programs the station, which is not necessarily the same person, although oftentimes it is, and I can interview them, I'll include an interview, which has usually some interesting information about the station. So that kind of thing. So you'll see that and other things. I do other things on there that is exclusive content to my Patreon page. So if you want to consider that, that would be great. And that's about it. So thanks so much for watching. Like me. And we will see you next time.